Hello and welcome to episode 17 of the Blue Corner. I'm Mike, as always, one half of the Unknown Experts. Let's get right to the headlines. Brian Ortega, T-City himself, versus Max Holloway is almost set and booked for UFC 231 in Toronto, Canada. Ortega's promising it'll be fight of the year. I doubt it. I think it's going to be one-sided taking of the belt from Holloway in Ortega's favor. However, second he puts hands on Holloway, he'll probably have him hurt and be moments away from his glory. News broke recently that the UFC's debut on ESPN after their new multi-million-dollar deal was announced has two fights booked already. Robbie Lawler versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. But the second fight, Paige VanZant versus Rachel Ostovich, is in some question, as Paige VanZant has since refuted it, saying she's not medically clear to fight. We don't know where it'll take place, but we do know it'll be January 18th, 2019, somewhere. The finalized UFC 229 lineup has been announced. Obviously, it'll be the McGregor-Khabib card. So, main card, we got Nurmagomedov versus McGregor, Tony Ferguson versus Anthony Pettis, OSP, Open St. Prude versus Dominic Reyes. Gotta go with Reyes in that one. He's got the better hands. Derek Lewis versus Alexander Volkov. This was initially going to be the co-headliner before the Ferguson fight, but this is one of the more interesting fights, other than the titular one, seeing as Volkov's coming off of a big win over Fabricio Werdum, and Derek Lewis is always going to be a KO threat, even with that perennial bad back. I don't know where to lean on that yet. Rounding off the main card is a female fight. Michelle Waterson will be taking on Felice Herrig. You got to lean towards Waterson, who's always better in these situations. Prelims is almost just as good, with Sugar Sean O'Malley versus Jose Alberto Quinones. Sergio Pettis, Anthony's little brother, fighting on the undercard against Hasser Formega. Scott Holtzman will be taking on Alan Patrick. Long Island's own Ryan LaFleur will be taking on Tony Martin. Lena Landsberg will be taking on Yana Kutsikaya, the woman who had recently fought Cyborg. The UFC hadn't even posted her photo on the website days before the fight. Brendan Schaub had mentioned ad nauseum. Gray Maynard versus Nick Lenz will be the final fight, rounding out the card. Wow, Gray Maynard is still fighting, let alone fighting in the UFC. I thought last I checked, he was in like Valley Tudo somewhere, in some no-name company, maybe even in Russia or something. But I guess Maynard's back, taking on Nick Lenz, two so-so 500 veterans. And some other not-so-news. Floyd Mayweather's come out and said that he would love to train Conor for the Khabib fight. There's not much to this. It's just ask a fucking wall that could tell you that, yeah, go train with a boxer taking on the penultimate wrestler. It's one more way Floyd can get his name in the headlines without having to go down and suggest another bullshit never gonna happen, Floyd Conor 2, this time in a cage fight, or this time with 4-ounce gloves. But moving on, Trevor Whitman's underreaction to his fighter Justin Gaethje's win was posted by Gaethje, showing that him praising his coach's level-headedness through win and defeat. Of course, coming off this weekend, Gaethje had that excellent KO over James Vick, who everyone commented as Vick looked like he was just uncomfortable. I mean, this was his first main event. He didn't make a lot of eye contact prior to the fight, but he was doing pretty good before he got caught. He was keeping Gaethje at distance. I was loving the way his kick was landing. He would hit it against the guard of the hands, against the forearms, and then fire it right again at the stomach. Did it beautifully, literally right before Gaethje ducked in, split the distance, and caught him with a hooking right hand that just cleaned him on the feet. You got to give an assist to the apron. First time I've ever seen it, where Vic was hit. He was out on his feet, and as he was going to one side, his head bounced off of the apron of the cage and then slammed against the floor before Gaethje hit him with a follow-up left hand before the fight was waved off. if you can think of another time where you've seen the cage play part in a knockout, and I'm not talking, Pat Miletich versus Carlos Newton here. I mean, no, not Matt Hughes versus Newton, where he was propped against the cage and then slammed down, where it should have been a double knockout, but Hughes won. I mean, another instance where the cage acted as a striker. But either way, great win for Gaethje, even though we all said coming in he should have changed his game plan and implemented wrestling in his camp. Otherwise, he's going to run out of time real quick. It was looking that way for the first couple of seconds, 50 seconds, up until that right hand at the 86 second mark. Jojo Calderwood got her first submission win, a truly shocking triangle against Fiora, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu veteran. I did not see it coming. Calderwood has been a Muay Thai fighter through and through, so finally she's adapting after Namajunas subbed her, after you name her, subbed her a couple of different people since her run on The Ultimate Fighter. Andre Touchy-Feely is still pretty sour after his controversial defeat to Michael Johnson, saying that he talks and hits like a bitch is his exact quote. Not exact, but pretty close to it. So we'll see what happens with that, if they'll ever meet again. I doubt it. I mean, neither one of them is really upper echelon yet until they find like their peak or rise in some sense. We'll see what happens. After being TKO'd by Brian Barberina, Jake Ellenberger retired in cage, doing the classic remove the gloves, set him on the canvas. Just a reminder that Dana wanted to force him into retirement 2 years ago in 2016 after losing 4 of his last 5, but he talked his way essentially into it, basically begging for one last chance. I think I heard it through Joe Rogan or somebody had said on their podcast that he showed up at the SUFA headquarters and basically pleaded in the office for one shot, and that was against the then very, very intimidating Matt Brown, who I can't place what the fight was, but he was coming off a couple of impressive wins. But Ellenberger came out, like his nickname suggested, the Juggernaut, and ran right through Matt Brown, never gave him a chance, and beat him. Unfortunately, he lost his next 4 straight, and he's a great performer, but he sits right on that fence in between Hall of Fame notoriety and not. So he's lacking that quote-unquote big win. So we'll have to see in time if his stock rises, or if he even stays retired, if he doesn't sign with Bellator or somebody else. The KS1 versus Paul Freak Show fight is a talking point, but I'm not gonna go there. I don't follow either one of these guys, so I have no stake in it. What stake would I have in a 6th round fixed fight? Honestly, they made their money. Good for them. The end. Junior Dos Santos is being falsely accused of knocking out multiple people in a Brazilian nightclub brawl. There's video that pretty much clears that it's not Junior Dos Santos. So JDS is cleared of that rumorous headline. UFC 232 just got 232 Nunes versus Cyborg, the New Year's Eve card. Just got their second fight added. Ilir Latifi versus Corey Anderson. You probably know that Nate Diaz and Bruce Buffer have been going at it on Twitter. But the question by many right now is who won the exchange. The answer is nobody, till they're in the same cage. If and when Nate shows up to fight Dustin Poirier at MSG in November, that's where we'll see who wins. If Nate goes out of his way to flick off Bruce while he's introducing him, that'll be another one for the highlight reel. Let's see. Robson Gracie Jr., Renzo Gracie's brother, will make his MMA debut at Bellator 208. The fight will be at welterweight against a 0-1 Bellator, again quote-unquote, veteran, Peter Nascimento, who was KO'd at Bellator 194 in his only professional fight against Castriot Eczema. Fun looking up that name. Reporting Bellator news always kind of raises a question for me. Was it them formerly being known as Bellator Fighting Championship and thus BFC, versus UFC, Pride FC, Dream FC or DFC. Was that strictly the Bjorn Rebney era, aka before Scott Coker, the stud from Strikeforce, took over being their president? Because that sure as shit would make reporting on them much easier instead of having to write out Bellator every goddamn time, you know. Good acronym always helps in the fight game. Last piece of news we'll get to is Tyron Woodley is taking on Darren Till. Darren Till's got a promo out that a lot of people are saying is so inspirational that they want to fight Woodley. But the other side of the story is Woodley's come out and said that he will not fight Carmen Usman or anyone if Till doesn't make weight. Specifically, I assume that means also if he's injured, because it, quote, wouldn't be fair to him. I see the irony of this coming from a long idle champion who's been off in the shelf for about a year since he set the record for least amount of strikes thrown in a 5-round fight against Damian Maia, and then the inactivity in both Wonderboy fights, which time will tell if that was just selective pause and fear of being counterstruck, or if it was an actual strategical decision to go in there, wait out Wonderboy, close the distance, and clip him, which he did in both fights, and were the deciding factor, which felt like both judges saying, screw it, he did the damage, fuck the math, we'll make it make sense. But yeah, at the moment that's all the news that's up in the air. We'll be back with a new episode soon enough. This has been the Blue Corner. I'm Mike as always. Keep on watching. Love you all. Peace out.